Hey guys, this is Colin from Blackjack Apprenticeship, and I am on the podcast joined with Stan Podolak. How are you doing, Stan?
Doing pretty good. How are you, Colin?
I'm good. You staying safe during quarantine?
As safe as it can be in my bedroom. It's pretty much the only scenery I've had for going on a month now.
Yeah. So let's talk about your card counting career and start at the start. How did you get started as a card counter?
Yeah, a good friend of mine who I have been friends with since middle school introduced me to Holy Rollers. We watched that together, like right after we graduated college, and he was the first one who got interested in it, and figured something I might as well give it a crack at it if I had this whole summer free. Only thing I had to do that summer right after college was study for some content tests, which I had to pass in order to become certified to teach. And those things took like 2 or 3 hours of study a day, and I didn't really have anything else to do. So trained on BJA, used your videos, the original ones from way back in the day. This was quite a while ago. Um, but yeah, we put together a little bankroll after we trained. Me and Cal, we'll call him. He goes by Cal on the forum, Cal Mountain Jr. Um, Played with about a $5,000 replenishable bankroll at the beginning, and we played together and did not did not run well from the beginning. And then that very next year, I got a what essentially was my dream job, coaching at a basketball powerhouse program where I live. Pretty much the what I would consider as the top basketball program at the high school level in my area. So I was extremely fortunate to get on board there, and kind of wanted to take things that direction. And so my start with Blackjack was pretty slow.
So that's really interesting. That makes me think of several things. First off, what did you teach, or what did you
Yeah,
study?
yeah. I taught for a couple years. 1 year of science, a couple years speech and communications, and a few years at the end, I taught business and investing concepts and things like that, which I think are pretty important.
Was that kind of secondary to being the coach, or?
According to my salary, it was not secondary. But coaching did, because of the level of the program where I was. Yeah, coaching did take up a lot of time and was a big focus for me for sure.
Okay. Another thing that stood out to me is you said that you had 2 or 3 hours of studying a day to get your certification, and you that wasn't enough studying time for you. So you studied card counting on top of that. I think that just kind of points out the
Yeah.
personality, you know?
Yeah, I didn't even, man, at that time, card counting training was so fun for me. I probably didn't even consider it to be studying. It was really a fun time. And
Yeah.
I was only, I had just graduated college. So my ploppy gambling career only lasted maybe a year and a half. And I did not enjoy losing. So I had to figure out a way to change that up.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so how did you get the name that you go by? I guess here on the podcast as well as on the forum, Stan Podolak.
Yeah. Keeping with the basketball theme, I mean, if anybody has seen the great film Space Jam from the mid 90s, starring Michael Jordan, Bugs Bunny, the rest of the Looney Tunes, Stan Podolak was Michael Jordan's publicist and kind of the comedic relief in the movie. And basically, Stan symbolizes to me someone who really sacrifices everything they can for the greater good of a team and expects absolutely no credit, no glory. If you'll remember the film from 25 years ago now, um, Stan, when Michael Jordan gets captured into the golf hole, he digs a giant hole in the golf course to try to find him. He sneaks into the Monstars locker room at halftime and tries to figure out their secrets and ends up getting beat up for it. And that's how Michael Jordan realizes who he's playing against. It's the NBA players. And then finally, the Monstars, I mean, absolutely pummel Stan and flatten him. And that's how Michael realizes that he can stretch his body. And that's how he makes the game winning shot. So in a lot of ways, Stan is the hero of Space Jam, and nobody recognizes that, and I kind of like that.
So tell me how that relates to card counting.
Yeah. Card counting for me didn't really blossom as a card counter until I started networking, and so the value of teammates and other people are really valuable to me. And so trying to offer other people value is a goal of mine, and always something I keep be mindful of.
Okay, I was thinking also, card counters don't get a lot of glory,
Oh
like
God, yeah,
we're in
no,
the
not at all.
casinos.
Yeah,
We're in the casinos and no one we don't want anyone to know what we're doing. And then
yeah,
when they do know what we're doing, we don't get praise for it. We get kicked
right. And
out.
you got poker players on ESPN.
That's right. That's right. They're getting maybe more so 10, 15 years ago, but these
Yeah.
poker stars and we're these,
Hmm.
I don't need the glory. I just want to beat the game and get the money.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's awesome. So you're teaching, you're coaching. What brought you back to Blackjack, or were you playing during that time?
I was playing the whole time, just not a lot of hours. I don't live near any casinos, and putting as much hours into my career as I did, I really was only able to get 150, 200 hours max per year during these years where I was really focused on coaching and teaching. Um,
Okay.
but all of this kind of started to come together at the same time. It's a lot of different factors. One, a nice graph started to form over time. I started to see what the profit potential could be if I raised the stakes a little bit. I started cracking open all the books, and those really set a fire within me to. Um, uh, I mean, the storytelling books are really essentially my favorite, and kind of really set me up to where um, I was I had decided, this is what I want to do. I decided to go to a boot camp during around that time too. Despite already know how to play, I just wanted to get better networked and just spend some time around other APs because really it took me years before I even met another card counter because of the area I live in, and I just wasn't putting in the effort to do that because I had other focuses.
So
Yeah.
any specific books come to mind that were inspiring for you?
Um, yeah. Let's turn around. I'm in my bookshelf right now. Burning the Tables was amazing. Repeat Until Rich was probably the most well written.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, anything by Arnold Snyder really hooked me
Hmm.
in, and he's probably my favorite writer in terms of the teaching the game aspect. And then ever since then, of course, I've picked up the 21st century card counter. But yeah, that was a great read as well.
No, those are some good ones.
Shout out to 1936 Free Waters and Other Blackjack Endeavors.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's funny. I remember that one.
Not a lot of people know about that one, but it's definitely one of the funniest ones. Definitely the funniest one. The guy is hilarious.
Cool. So you read some books, you saw the profit potential, and you decided, that coaching maybe wasn't all you hoped it would be, and blackjack seemed like a more, I don't know, better horizon?
Coaching stayed very consistent because the program where I was at, I worked for a legendary coach who ran the same type of system every year, had quality players every year. We won first place in our district all 5 years that I coached there. Went undefeated, I believe, three times, and went deep in the playoffs every year. It was a good time. Just the profit potential of blackjack just started to creep up to the point where it really became irresponsible. To spend as much time as I was away from it. And my rule, even that I tell rest of the guys on the team that I have, and anybody who asks me, is my rule for going pro is I wouldn't even consider quitting until you can generate twice the amount of EV in a year that you make. And that was the number I went for. And once I got there and I felt like I could do that, then I made the plans to make the change.
Awesome. I don't know if you remember it, but I remember the phone call with you when you're interested in a boot camp. And
I do.
you had a business plan. You had it all mapped out. It was actually really impressive. And it's hard to know, I probably for every boot camp of 20 people, I talk to over 100 on the phone, and it's hard to tell who's serious and who's not. But when someone's coming at me with a business plan, I know they've put some thought into it. So kudos on that. So what was your family thinking, or did you tell them that you were gonna quit teaching and
Yeah.
coaching?
I don't have a big family, so it's really just a few people we're talking about here, but they're supportive, but they absolutely do not understand any part of it.
Uh-huh.
As long as I'm happy, enjoying myself, and successful, then I'm not sure I'm gonna hear any negatives out of their mouths. But at the beginning, at least, they were. You could just tell that they they were like, "Oh man, what's he doing now?" Uh, but it's been almost a year now, and we're going through a pandemic now, and I'm still ticking along just fine. And I think they understand that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing now. This it fits me really well.
So how long has it been at this point that you went from, that you made well, actually, let's just step back and say you kind of made this decision to move away from teaching and coaching to full-time advantage play. What did that path look like from that plan to actually going pro?
I had a lot of time to plan it out because my job was teaching and coaching. So those years are pretty standard. Every year, you're going to have a basketball season from November to March, and then school is going to go until June, and then you're going to be done for a few months. And so I knew exactly what my schedule was going to be for years ahead of time, and could come up with a plan, you know. Well over a year in advance of when I would actually going to need to leave. So, and I was even honest with my boss and all my coworkers throughout most of that last entire school year, so that they could help find a replacement and make those preparations that they need to move forward. But yeah, it was a really well thought out plan, just like you said. I don't remember having a business plan, but that sounds like something I would do.
So was this 2 years ago? Was it, or three?
Um, when I came to boot camp,
Yeah. Mhm.
that was March of 2018.
Okay. So 2 years ago.
Mhm.
Um, and did you pass your test out?
You gave me my test out, and it was you threw two different answers at me. One, you said you still need to work on one thing, and that was you need to slow down. And another thing
Hmm.
you told me was your test out was a whole lot like Joe's, which to me was like about as big as a compliment as one can give. So I thought, okay, well, it's not all bad. I just got to work on slowing down and focusing and not trying to go too fast. I think
Mhm.
when you were testing me out, I was still kind of in a mode of getting rounds per hour in a
Mhm.
damn test out for whatever reason. Uh, but yeah, that's what happened.
Okay, so you came to this boot camp 2 years ago, and your game was, if not perfect, it was really damn close.
Right,
Um,
right.
and then had you, like, the previous couple summers, had you been hitting it hard while you had the summers off?
Yeah, the summers when I would get probably three-quarters of my play in throughout the year. And even then, you might think, oh, he's a teacher. He probably had 2 months to just get on the road and play 2 months straight. I wish that would have been the case, but we had a lot of responsibilities with coaching over the summer,
Mm,
different summer leagues and things like that. So I couldn't be out of town the entire time. But yeah, I would say probably 100 out of the 150 to 200 I would get every year were in the summers.
okay, so my dad was a teacher, and he always had a summer job. He was a lifeguard for a number of years. Then he went back to school and became an X-ray technician. And so he'd teach during the school year, and then he could still make, actually he didn't make a whole lot as a teacher, and so he could, make almost as much during the summer. I always thought card counting, could work out well that way, to just, hit it hard for the summer. But I understand that
Yeah.
with the basketball tournaments.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that was one thought I had, when I was starting to make the plan for the transition was could I do the card counting and just teach as well and not coach? But ultimately, I really don't think I could have done that.
So you decide to go. You do the boot camp. Your game's good, and did you just start hitting it, or did you have to finish up that school year?
um, yeah, the I finished out through the school year through June of last year, and literally 2 days after school ended, I was on the road on my first trip as a pro, and
Oh wow.
and been on the road as much as I can since then until last month.
Yeah, when nobody's on the road.
Yeah.
So this next question comes from Camp 2406, who asked, "How do you think your approach to advantage play differs from others?"
I'm kind of split between card counting and some other plays, and a lot of people really don't fall into that category. Most people are either card counters or they've moved on from that and are exclusively doing other things. I really have a lot of card counting plays that are really valuable to me. So I'm just going to keep doing it. I have really four advantage players that I look up to beyond anybody else. They're kind of considered my Mount Rushmore of people who I try to emulate, or either that or the Robo QB. Like if I could take Michael Vick's legs and get Tom Brady's arm and and Patrick Mahomes' body, all that. So basically, for the leadership quality and longevity, Tommy Highland is someone that I look up to. I mean, if anybody can do it, if you can do it for as long as he has, you're doing something right in terms of leadership, because his team's been functioning at a high level for years and decades. That's something that I might want to do as well. Versatility. Vagabond is a good friend of mine, and he can do a lot of
Hmm.
different things. Walk into a casino and can do five different advantage plays, and it's about picking the right one at that
Hmm.
point. I've learned a lot from him. um, in the category of high standards of play, talking about a perfectionist, you probably know already who it is. Spartan.
Mm.
He was a huge inspiration when I was first starting out and taught me a ton. And his number one thing was be a perfectionist. Don't ever think like you're done training. It's always about getting better,
Hmm.
no matter how good you are. And then lastly, for work ethic, this is someone, he was the leading money winner from the church team, Loud and
Hmm.
Often. I just really inspired by his work ethic, just how he does all that by example. I haven't even talked to him all that much. I can just tell from his actions, you know, how hard he works, and I want to emulate it like as much as I can. So that's how my approach is, and how I want to craft my career into. If I can just be a little bit like all those guys, I'll be okay.
Yeah, no, that's a cool description, and I think you nailed it with each of their strengths. I'll say Loudon often wears me out on a blackjack trip. He's just like persistent and just wants to get in as many hours as he can. So I've experienced that for
Yeah.
firsthand. So you pass, or you go to the boot camp and you start hitting it hard. I imagine mostly card counting. How long into it did you start looking into some other ways to generate EV in a casino?
Right around. I mean, it was all about um, when the time came that I had some things to offer other people,
Mm,
in terms of trading information. Yeah, I wasn't really successful in getting any useful information about any of this stuff out of anyone until I had something to trade in return. So that was yeah, middle of last year, around the time I went pro. I ran into some people who I was able to bounce some ideas off of, and also get some really valuable tips from in generating EV in other ways, and it's helped out a lot for sure.
okay. And what kind of hours were you putting in at the tables, or have you been?
Over the time I've been pro, I put in 50 to 60 hours a month,
Okay.
counting
Yeah.
cars, and Yeah, that's down from 80 whenever I was only counting cards. The
Uh-huh.
hours tend to take a little bit of hit when you do other things because there's only a certain amount of time in a day. So
Yeah. Oh, I thought you were going to say because maybe you're betting more and it's harder to get in the hours.
no, no, not even close. That's not an issue.
Okay. So what about databases? Are you in
Yeah, I stayed out for a long time as a part-time player. Was really proud about that. But no, I'm in there now. Um, but yeah, I mean, it hasn't had too much of an impact. I've continued to play rated at my local places and haven't been picked off because of it.
That's
Um,
awesome.
and I've maybe got one or two back offs on the road uh, because of it, but my overall back off rate is pretty much stayed the same. I haven't really noticed that much of a difference.
And how have your stakes changed over this 2-year period?
Uh, they've gone up a little bit, but not much because of the streak that we'll talk about in a little bit.
Sure. Well, we can get into that right now. Actually,
Yeah.
tell us about. I mean, I know you wrote a big forum post about it, which I
Yes.
think was just really. It showed kind of that attitude you talked about of wanting to give rather than looking just to receive. That you're willing to say, "Look, this is brutal, but this is what I went through." Why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah. It's kind of surreal to think about the amount of time that it was just 'cause from at the beginning of it, I wasn't, I was still part-timing. And so just the sheer months that it lasted, I mean, 15 and a half months or so
Mm,
where I can cut that off in my results and it'll show $0 in AV. And it's just, it makes your heart sink.
mm,
I generated 72 grand in EV over that time and was backed off 13 times. But I mean, it was really just a back and forth. I mean, every other trip I would win and lose 15 grand, win or lose 15 grand, and it would just go back and back and forth
hmm
and have no end to it. Um, I mean, I was 200 hours into it when I turned pro and was extremely optimistic that it would turn around because I didn't particularly want to start off my career with another 200 plus, and then ended up being another 300 plus.
mm.
Um, yeah,
It,
there's been a few guys that have gone through that, and I reached out to a few of them um, that have been through a similar streak and kind of got their perspective on it, and they kept me confident through some of it.
Anyone you can mention?
Yeah, Rimo had a couple of
Yeah.
them. Rimo
hmm
did a 400-hour one and a 350-hour one, I believe, which were, I mean, both of them back to back almost. That's insane. Um, I didn't get to talk to Loudon often, but I know he had a brutal streak to start his career.
hmm
Um, I would like to talk to him next time at the boot camp, in hopefully next month.
Yeah. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's a brutal. I don't wish that upon any AP, but it happens, especially when you consider distribution curve.
Mm.
Someone's bound to have it, and someone's bound to have the other side of it. But I remember your chart that you came out of it, and then you just happened to like shoot upward. Uh,
Yeah, it was Mount Everest for real on that right side, as one of my teammates called it. He God, there was a point where I won 28 out of 31 sessions. Um, yeah, and about 61,000 or so over the course of like 6 weeks.
yeah. So, was there a point during that stretch that you thought about just giving it up, doing something else?
Nope, not even, not even a little bit.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Were you living off savings during that
Yeah,
time?
I had well, for the first 200 I still had a job. And then after that when I went pro, I set myself up be to be able to pay bills through 8 to 10 months if I didn't make any money in advantage play. And on my other plays besides counting cards, I actually ran pretty crappy at that too, but I was making money, so it paid the bills.
Okay, okay. And then it was card counting where you just swung up 60K?
There was one play that wasn't card counting, but
Okay.
it was like 2 days worth of it. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, we'll talk about that in a bit, I
So
believe.
so during that streak of, I mean, were there any huge downswings, or was it mostly, yeah, maybe like 15K down and then get back to even, then back down? Or were there any big like dips that were discouraging?
Toward the end of my streak was the worst of it. November, December of last year, I just couldn't buy a win. It
Mm,
was it was nasty. I was really looking to get out of my streak during those months, and I just sunk it worse, sunk further into it. Honestly, um,
mhm.
yeah. So uh, coming out of last year was brutal.
So what kind of steps did you take during that to try to, dig out of it or to lower your variance?
Yeah. I made a little bit of tweaks to my game selection. Not a huge adjustment, just I just swore off, you know, a deck and a half cut off on shoe games completely. I wouldn't play it anymore, whereas previously, I would play it a little bit, probably like I think it was like 8 to 10% of my sessions overall, during my losing or my break even streak were on mediocre shoe games like that, and I just quit them. The second thing I did was I started a team to fade the swings, which it has done exactly that. When you got 8 guys, um, getting in 250, 300 hours a month between everybody, you're going to ride it a lot smoother. And we've
Mhm,
been getting about $214 an hour EV on average as a team, which is
mhm.
up pretty good from what I was doing as a solo player.
Uh-huh, so that's Evie. What about results? Is it,
Results. I mean, we're about halfway done closing our first bankroll when we got shut down by Corona.
yeah. Uh-huh.
But we're up. I mean, we're up. Mid four figures. Um,
Uh-huh.
s Sorry, mid five figures. I
Mid
can't
five
can't
figures,
can't
okay.
I can't count my figures.
Well, hey, it's better to be up mid five figures than mid four figures.
Right. Oh, definitely.
So having a team, yeah, you're able to get to the long run faster, and there are times where multiple players are losing or multiple players are winning, but it's just a lot of large numbers. You can get there faster, and that was it difficult to kind of recruit people to a team when you're in the middle of this break even streak, or do people just trust the math and trust your skill level?
Yeah, that's a good question. I have no idea what these people were thinking teaming up with me. Yeah, that's an incredible leap of faith by some people, that deserve some credit for sure.
Hmm.
Um, Couple of them I've known for a really, really long time, so there was that. Obviously Cal, the guy I've known since middle school, he wasn't going to be an issue. There's been a couple of guys in my area that I kind of brought under my wing even a few years ago, and just we've played together for quite a bit, and so they were there even when I was even before the break even streak. Before the break even streak, I had another very good run, just like the one I just had almost. So it's been streaky for a long time.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, there's a lot of 8 guys on the team. So yeah, 7 guys trusted that I would get things turned around for sure because everybody knew about it.
So that's a pretty big team, you know. The church team, we had more than that at times. But how do you keep, good camaraderie and trust and all those things with 8 people?
Yeah, I had to be really I just do the work ahead of time. I pick the right people.
Mhm.
It was the same way I handled renting out my last house. How do you get so lucky and get renters that are so good? Well, I do my research
Mhm.
and I pick the right person. You got to be good at judging character, um, and I feel like I am. The people I have are really good guys, so we haven't had any issues, but we just kind of got started. But
Mhm.
um, yeah, the camaraderie part is easy, and it's the best part of it. One of the big reasons why I put it together as well. So I mean, I've been wanting to put together a team for a long time, and was really patient, just trying to get the right guys, put together the right group, and that came together at the end of last year, and we started getting going with it in January.
Cool. Cool. So let's get back to your personal approach. This question comes from Overtime. He says, what are some of the things that you do that enable you to have longevity at casinos that other players might get backed off from pretty quickly?
Yeah. This is kind of two pronged. It's a completely different answer for if I'm at a local casino or if I'm traveling. If I'm local and I'm like at the Cheers Casino, as I call it, where everybody knows your name. Um, Basically, you need to develop a relationship with everybody there, including cashiers, players club, janitors, if you want. It doesn't matter. Just know everybody that you can. Be a pleasant customer to be around.
Hmm.
Try to figure out ways to make them think that you're a regular customer, just like everybody else. And then beyond that, just your actual play style. I really take pride in playing it cool, not ever, looking at the cards or the discards or just and being talkative, things like that. But my number one rule for local casinos would not be to not set off alarm bells. Things like winning too much in a day,
Hmm.
cashing out too much at one time, or doing anything funky with chips. Some of these really small casinos I play at, they hawk their black chips like this, like it's
Mm.
gold. So I mean, there's absolutely no reason to do anything fishy with them because they know where they are.
Yeah.
Um, Things like that is what I do at locals.
So hold on. I have a question about local casinos.
Mhm.
You said not winning too much. How do you determine those
Uh,
thresholds? Is it casino by casino or?
oh, for sure. Yeah. Every casino is going to be different on that. Basically, yeah, if they are your locals, playing there every day, you should get an idea based on being observant, and when you're having one of your when you're winning sessions where the chips are piling up, you got to be alert to who is starting to sweat a little bit,
Mm,
even if they're not suspicious of anything you're doing. When chips pile up, people get nervous. So you just got to see when that time comes when people are starting to get nervous, um, and
okay.
and then make a note of that and try to stay around that area. Um,
Yeah. Does that result in some kind of shorter sessions, but you're okay just walking?
um, it's resulted in me cutting things short for a day at a casino, but that generally just means I'm going to be going to the next casino.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. So you're saying when you travel, what's your approach?
Right. Yeah, when I'm traveling, my number one thing is that I have to have a developed reason for being there. It has to be believable, be able to answer questions about it,
Mm,
even provide proof of it. If you say you're there, visiting your little cousin, hey, have whip out a picture of your little cousin, and they'll be like, oh, how cute, stuff like that.
yeah. So you put a lot of forethought into kind of who you're putting out to the casinos, both at home and on a trip.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm always yeah, with every play, it's different. If it's going to be a place where I plan on trying to return to that same place and play at that casino for a long time, they'll say it's not a card counting play and it's something that I'll be able to play, just indefinitely at. Um, yeah, then it comes to back to being a little bit more like a local casino and being a part of the customer base there and fitting in, being social and everything like that. Um, but Yeah, so a lot of this stuff isn't really going to fool a sharp eye. So if you're card counting, I just go circle back to being really selective on casinos where I play at. I'm just not gonna play every single place when I'm traveling, and like all sorts of things go into how I select it. It's usually mostly networking and things like that. But I think we're going to talk a little bit more about scouting later.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, let's get into that. How do you scout?
Yes, scouting is like it doesn't even feel like work for me. It's like one of the most fun things I do. Like when I get ready, geared up to go on another trip. Um, it's basically three parts. My scouting process. First, before I even leave, I'll be online. I have every casino website saved in tabs on a map that I can just click to really easily, and I'll see every casino's promotions they're going to be having on
Mm,
the days that I'll be there. Um,
that's
Stuff
smart.
like that. And that doesn't even really take that long because 90% of the time you're going to find nothing, and it's just click out of that tab, go to the next one. Networking is the second thing, and basically, I just um, really like to learn from others' experiences to make my decisions better. And I mean, if you have like, if I got an 8-person team, it's essentially the same thing as having the experience of 8 people all in one.
Mhm.
If you're going to go through the effort of asking before you go to a town, hey, who's been to Biloxi, where should I go, what should
Mhm.
give me the lowdown. Never go into a situation that's completely unknown if you don't have to. If you have enough people around you that have played enough, then that should never happen. The third thing that I do is actually the physical scouting when I'm in the casino. Um, I visit the Players Club. I check their pamphlets, see what they have that may not be advertised on their websites. You'd be surprised what they don't ever even advertise. Talk to the ploppies to get an idea of what they're getting in comps. Like I'll really strike up conversations with other players that are clearly playing rated and playing for the similar stakes that I am. I'll want
Mhm.
to, I'll try to figure out, hey, what do you get in free play? What are they giving you? So try to figure out what might be valuable there. Um, and then I try to take as good notes as I can and um, be generous with the rest of the guys on my team with those, and have them just be open for anybody else.
Okay. So you skipped one step, which is looking for lucky dealers. How much time do you
Oh
spend?
man. Well, I don't spend any time because I already know where they are at my local casinos when I walk in the door.
So, and you've also alluded to this other play. Can we be honest and talk about your high stakes Paigow team?
Yeah, a friend of mine just ordered a Pai Gow book, and because he couldn't get it shipped to him, so he had it shipped to me, and so I just flipped it open just to look at it for 2 pages, and yeah, I'm not going to be opening that book again. Look,
Well, there's really two tricks to successful Paigow. One is you got to find the lucky dealers. And then two, it's all about how slowly you open your hand. They slide these like whatever it is, 5 or 7 cards to you.
oh man,
And the really good players, they slide those cards really, really slowly. They've got special way, like maybe they'll peek one card down and then slide some of them left to right. And I think that that's really the trick to Paigow.
that is exactly the opposite of blackjack. Because every time I see someone doing that at a blackjack table, they are a loser.
Well, for those who don't know, I'm joking. Pai Gow, we would get, promotional things that were worth playing at Pai Gow. Or there were some casinos that we were banned from the blackjack tables, but we might have like a $50, $100 match play. And so we just, run in there and play Pai Gow or whatever. There probably were smarter ways to play it, but we didn't know. Anyway, I digress. I know you're not going to tell your other plays, but tell us what size bankroll you started off with. I mean, I know you and your buddy Cal
Yeah,
started with
we
5.
Yeah, we pretty much. I after that, and when I was just going to play by myself as a part-time player, I used a replenishable bankroll format the entire time I was part-time up until last year. That grew quite a bit, obviously, but um, I mean, I started with another five after me and Cal went bust on that first five,
Hmm.
and on my own, I went bust on that five again, and so
Mm,
I've lost two replenishable bankrolls. But hey, that was at the very beginning, and that's why it's replenishable.
hmm.
I mean, I was making plenty of money, and part of building a bankroll has to be other things besides blackjack if you're not going to be playing just a ton of hours. And I didn't
Hmm.
have the ability to play a ton of hours, so I had to come up with a plan to invest into blackjack from my everyday
Hmm.
salary, just like it was an investment account, and just consider EV to be dividends and compound interest.
So, I mean, the other way to think about that with a replenishable bankroll is you could say, well, yeah, you busted two $5,000 bankrolls, or the other way to look at it is with a replenishable bankroll, you're down,
Oh
10,
yeah.
10K of
Hmm.
we'll say a 20 or $25,000,
Right.
bankroll over a long enough period of time. You got all that back. So what are some tips you have for people that are, you know, trying to grow a smaller bankroll?
Yes. Like I was saying, playing blackjack alone is going to be possible for some people, but not others. A lot of stars have to align for you. Really being honest about it to grow $2,000 into $500,000, like the handful of
Hmm.
players that have done that. Think about the people who have done that. You, Joe, Yoshi, those guys. What do they all have in common? Um, Pretty much they had easy access to good games at low stakes.
Hmm.
It didn't have a lot of expenses. They were younger, physically able to play as many hours as they wanted
Hmm.
to. They could travel as much as they wanted to once that became an option. Their work ethic was there. I mean, those are the stars that have to align. And if any one of those isn't there, then you got to come up with other ways to grow it. And
Hmm.
there's plenty of other ways. My route obviously was to get a job and contribute, just
Hmm.
like it was a retirement account that I played blackjack with.
Totally, totally. No, that's helpful for people. I mean, I think some people say you can't do it, and I would say, well, yeah, me, Yoshi, Raimo, Joe, we're proof that you can. But like you said, you got to have a lot of things line up. I mean, even on top of the things you mentioned, a little bit of luck, or maybe a lot of
Yes.
bit of luck.
Yeah, running good
Uh,
at the beginning was, yeah, for sure.
yeah, someone like Richard Munchkin, he was unlucky to start off his, and he was like, "Ah, screw this," and quit. And it wasn't until
Hmm.
a team of people came to him that he gave it another try. So kudos to you for finding another way to do it. And I tell a lot of people, similar to what you said, going pro should be like your last resort. It's when it's like, hey, I can make so much more money going full time that
Yeah.
I can't do anything but go pro. It shouldn't be like, oh, I want to be a card counter. Let me quit my job and start playing the tables with 3 grand or 5 grand or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, so, can you share with us any fun stories from your days out on the beating the trails as an AP?
Yeah, my first trip that I took as a member of the team after I met a couple of other guys, and we got up in a hotel room somewhere and just tested everybody out and just hit the road right from there. I literally, the second day I was on the road, a friend of mine um, gave me a tip that there just might be a 2-to-1 blackjack promotion out in this casino in the middle of nowhere. So I said, you know what, why not? Let's go and see what's out there. It was like 4 hour drive into the forest, basically.
Uh-huh.
Um, so when I got there, there was no 2-for-1 blackjack. So I just said, "Oh well, let's just play and see what happens, and try to get a couple hours and head back." Well, probably 20 minutes into my session, I took a fifth card, and they scooped my cards and paid me. And I said, "Well, what's that? What happened? What
Yeah.
what is this?" And they said, "Oh, it's a 5 card Charlie promotion for uh, all this month every day." And I'm like, oh God.
Yeah.
Uh, and I immediately went to the bathroom, texted all my teammates, and said, "Yo, uh, what do we do here?" So it turns out I had to go learn a separate strategy to play the
Hmm.
game. Um, so I finished up my session pretty quickly. I only played maybe an hour, and I used an incredibly light spread that wasn't going to be detectable because I figured
Hmm.
even without knowing the strategy, it was probably about a break even game off the top anyway. So light spread, and I won about $4,000. And at the cashier's cage, this is gives you an idea of the size and niceness of the casino. I was approached by two security guards, and they just tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Dude, we just want to come up and say congratulations. It's been a long time since anybody won this kind of money here."
Oh, that's awesome.
um, so that freaked me out for a split second, and then it was all good. And then had a police escort to my car. They just offered it, and I'm like, "Oh, this is like regular session for me, but let's do
Yeah.
it." Um, and then so I went and I got into another. I went to another hotel room for a day to study the strategy, and I had one of my other teammates who already knew the strategy go and play it first. He drove two states
Hmm.
over. He drove two states over at the drop of a hat to play it. And while I studied up on the strategy, he ended up winning a good amount. And then I came in a couple days after him. He played 2 or 3 days. Then I came in, and my first day I won a little over 20,000.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
yeah, it was between an evening and the next morning, and I mean, people were just, I mean, there was crowds forming, and
Oh my gosh.
everybody in the casino, um, who the majority of which were on some sort of hard drugs. Um, the majority of these people, I'm telling you, is we're out here in the middle of nowhere. So I'm yeah, it's I coming up with an exit strategy just so I can keep this play alive for another teammate
Hmm.
who I got coming in the next day, and then another one the next day, and then see how long we can keep this thing going. It was only going to be scheduled to run through the end of the month, and um, after that, we didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah.
So we had to have somebody there at the at the tail end of that month just to see what they were going to announce, because this is a casino. They barely even had a website
Yeah.
to announce anything. So we had to have somebody physically up there. Um, so it turns out they changed the promotion after that month to Monday, Wednesday only, um, which sucks because it means
Sure.
that it means that they're going to figure you out.
When
We
you're
sort of
only playing
when you're only
Monday and
playing,
Wednesday.
yeah, we weren't going to give up the EV by going in there and doing dumb stuff on Tuesday and Thursday just to
Mhm.
keep it alive. But we lasted a couple of weeks on Monday and Wednesday with a couple other guys we went up there, won a little bit more, but yeah. After that, they limited it to $25 max pay on a Charlie and 10 Charlies per day. Uh,
Oh, okay.
yeah. The first thing they did was take away their shoe game completely. The first game that we showed up to play was a $300 max shoe game, which was close to $900 to $1,000 an hour
Oh, that's awesome.
flat betting. And the first thing they did after my first teammate went in and just had crazy huge swings. Just when you're flat betting table max at
Yeah.
200 rounds per hour, sometimes I mean the swings are just insane. The casino wasn't comfortable with them, and then they took away the shoe game. So the only game available was their single deck 3-2. Um, and basically dealt out like 1 or 2 rounds or whatever, but it
Oh,
didn't
man.
matter. It didn't matter. But yeah, so it chopped the hourly rate down because of the slower game, but it was
Yeah.
still really good. Um, and it was a slightly lower max on the other game too. But
Mhm.
yeah, it lasted a good time, and for there was a while where we were in our teammate group chat. It was hilarious. I mean, we were just speculating on what could potentially happen if we were to take more money out of this casino than they could afford to lose. I mean, because this is just a dump of a casino out there that who knows what they could have lost to us if they never would have figured it out. But probably wasn't that much more than we got.
So did you guys have to count at that game? Or was it was just an edge off the top based on a 5 card Charlie?
Yeah, it was an edge off the top based on the 5 card Charlie rules. We still
Mhm,
counted just to use some deviations and for insurance,
mhm.
and it was because it was a single deck, so why not?
Sure.
But but yeah, there was some times where especially when I was there, and then the teammate who came in after me when they were just in total freak out mode. Um, they were on the phone whispering about edge sorting and all
Oh,
these other
boy.
things that were,
Yeah, they're way off.
which by the way, their cards were awful and could have been edge sorted, given the opportunity. But no, that's not what we were doing.
So,
Um,
you're probably doing some crazy stuff like hitting 4 card 17s and
Yeah, you hit any 4 card soft total, of course, and you hit 4 card 17 against 9-10 race.
uh-huh.
So yeah, you do some pretty funny plays, and it's really surprised me that those plays never got the attention of what we were doing, and they never figured it out until we just showed up on the Monday, Wednesdays. They had no
Yeah.
clue.
So I'm just going to use this as an opportunity to teach people out there that you got to look at the opportunities. I've talked about at boot camps or in my book about coming across games with an edge off the top at multiple casinos. And when I first started as a card counter, I didn't even know it had an edge off the top. But then you learn a bit more and realize, hey, this promotional rule plus this promotional rule, and all of a sudden, like counting yeah, maybe you're counting just to know when to back off your betting, but not to be raising your betting. There was some casino that had it was a handful of things, but one of them it wasn't a 5 card Charlie. I can't remember if it was 6 or 7. It was like on top of all these other promotional rules, but it made it so that when you've got maybe it's a 6 card Charlie, so you got a five. In those rare cases where you have a 5 card
Hmm.
hand, you're gonna do some weird hits just because you're getting paid right away, or maybe you get paid. I can't remember what it was, 2 to 1 if you get a 7 card chart. I don't
Oh
remember, but
wow,
it
yeah.
was it was something weird. It was not a whole lot of EV, but I guess my point is we're doing some weird stuff because of all these different promotional rules, and it was well worth it to just be aware of what was out there. And you find a casino in the middle of nowhere that has this, and that's all of a sudden that's a gold mine.
Absolutely. There was really no finding this game if you hadn't have sat down to play it because it was not
Yeah.
advertised, the promotion. Literally after I got my first 5 card Charlie and realized what it was, I was looking around for like a sign or anything, and the guy eventually points over to the next blackjack table over, which was closed, and on top of it was a flat 8.5 by 11 white sheet of paper that explained 5 card Charlie,
That's awesome.
and that was the extent of their advertising. So there would have been no way. I mean, yeah, you got to really dig.
So I want to take a brief moment to acknowledge our sponsor. This podcast is brought to you by Dumb Casinos. Dumb Casinos, making APs since 1960 or something
you,
like that.
you got me there, Colin. I thought we had a sponsor.
Nope. I think our only other sponsor has been Denny's with
Yeah.
Denny's open 24 hours a day. And we got no money from Denny's, just a stomach ache. All right. So our next question comes from Cowboy88, who asked, what have you enjoyed the most about pro AP life and disliked the most?
The most it really fits my personality really well. I mean, my closest friends have all told me that I do. I kind of think differently and have a weird outlook on a lot of things and just a quirky personality that card counting gels really well with it.
Mm,
So I think it's really cool for me to do. And another thing would be the freedom that just comes with working for myself, being able to choose. Uh, you know, when things go right and wrong in my life for better way easier than it was when I was teaching, it seems like.
mm.
um, Things that I dislike the most: the smoke and the inconsistent food quality in casinos
Yeah,
would probably be the number one thing, but uh, that's going to be across the board with most guys who are out there, I think.
cool. We'll have to ask you again in another 2 years.
Yeah, yeah.
especially after the team's been at it for a while, kind of, what I think the camaraderie will be something that you'll be thankful for.
Oh, no question, no question. That's yeah. The team aspect would be another thing that I could put under my likes. I mean, it's a great group of guys who, yeah, I'm not making any trades. That's for sure.
Hmm. Awesome. So we got one last question, which comes down to what are your goals from here?
Yeah. Well, first, in terms of my team, I really want to establish that card counting team as more of a as like a permanent presence. I mean, I understand guys are going to grow out of it and leave and do their own thing, but I want to try to keep getting new players in at the same rate. So I want to keep this thing going, even if I stop playing sometime down the line. I think running a blackjack team is something I could do really forever,
Mhm.
whether or not I'm even out there. So yeah, if I could establish them as a permanent presence, that'd be great. Number two, I want to go to the Blackjack ball, be invited to that once. That'd be amazing.
Mhm.
Um, and then lastly, um, I really just want to. I tend to jot down in a journal cool things that happen over the course of being on the road, but you know at the end of it, I want to have a story that's really worth writing down and refining and putting together something like a
Mhm.
book. I don't know if it'll be worth reading, but I'd want to put it together anyway. So that'd be a goal of mine.
That's awesome. Well, maybe I've had the thought of some sort of blackjack apprenticeship publishing. Maybe, maybe
Hey, there we
just
go.
just for the people like you that have a story worth telling. I'd love to see those stories, or whatever. You can go through a different publisher, or you can self-publish. But either way, I think there are stories worth telling, reflections worth reflecting on,
Yes, absolutely.
and life lessons worth telling. So that's cool. I'm excited to keep in touch with how things progress. And it seems like the last 2 years have flown by and things have changed a lot already.
Yeah, no question.
This quarantine gives us a little extra time to slow down and and reflect on some stuff.
Yep, been getting in plenty of practice and working on the skills, but yeah, it's it just seems like the days just are in fast forward right now because there's just absolutely nothing out here to do.
Did you read Gross Jean's blog post?
Yes.
Yeah, so he talked about, refining your craft or adding skills to your craft. It's cool to hear that, you're a full-time player and you're using this downtime to do that. Is that true?
Yeah, I don't know what else I would do. I mean, I'm like literally in my room here is just a couple of blackjack tables and a TV and really just working on my cutting, my estimating decks and different skills that really just take tons of
Mhm.
hours. And it would be a shame to waste this time in history that'll probably never happen again, where I'm just shacked up in a room for a month with the ability to do anything. I mean,
Yeah. That's really smart. And I know we're running long here, but I'll just say, if I could go back in time, I would have taken the time to do more of that, to not just be content as a good card counter, but to, add some other skills, if not to use them a lot, just to even know if I come across something, hey, here's how I can attack it. Or even just to have other skills,
mhm.
so I think that's smart. I think that's going to suit you well and your team. And you guys as a team will have to decide how to test out these various skills, or when to use them, when not to use them. But kudos to you for doing that. And when I have taken the time to invest in other skills, it's always been fun. At the least.
I agree completely.
All right, that's my last rant. Thanks so much for taking the time to share your story with us, and people will know a bit more about you when they bump into you at a boot camp or on the forum or anything else. And people can find you on the forum if they have follow-up questions. Is that true?
Absolutely. You guys can check me out and the even in the DMs on the forums and things like that. And hopefully the boot camp will happen at the end of next month and get to see some new faces.
Hey, I'm still hoping to have 3 boot camps this year. There's
Yes.
3. I've got the dates booked for 3 this year, and so that's what I'm still hoping for. And get back to get back to some blackjack
Right.
and some face-to-face time, not Zoom
Yeah.
time.
Right.
Y'all. Awesome. Well, thanks again. And for all you guys listening, you can reach out to Stan through the BJ forum, and have a great rest of your week.
Thanks again, Colin.